Okay, so there is something that I have to admit. You see, when it comes to gacha games, my taste is generic, like really generic. And to be honest, I wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, why would I? Do any of y'all know how good it feels to almost always be able to pull characters using the classic quote-unquote wife or husbando over meta logic and still be on top of the meta for some reason? Me when I wake up knowing full well that I'm the target audience. Let's use an example. Honkai Star Rail, a game I almost exclusively play for the plot. And I do mean both kinds of plot. But because of this, I don't log in nearly as much as I probably should. Therefore, I tend to lose out on a lot of pulls each patch. And me not spending money doesn't help as well. This in turn obviously means less characters on my account, something that has the negative side effect of decreasing the amount of options I have available to me when doing endgame. But lo and behold, because somehow I can still breeze through the endgame with minor difficulties, because the few units I do tend to pull also tend to be the highly shielded ones, units that allow me to basically brute force most bosses in the game, well, the few bosses that aren't already specifically made to bend over backwards for those characters that I do pull, which granted aren't that many bosses in the first place. But the few odd times where these bosses do appear, well, as I just said, brute forcing hasn't failed me yet. Knock on wood. And as I just stated, I almost exclusively play this game for the story, so you couldn't really force me to care about being able to clear the endgame in Star Rail. But thanks to my generic-ass taste, I somehow can, quite easily in fact, in new game mode not accounted for obvious reasons. I can actually clear endgame almost as easily as I can sleep knowing full well that the upcoming character I fuck with is going to end up as a 5-star. Being excited about an upcoming character only for them to turn out to be a mediocre 4-star? Man, that must suck. Luckily never happened to me though. And even those few times where characters I vibe with fall out of the meta for whatever reason, like Kafka, Blade, Jingliu, to use Star Rail as an example again. Well. Guess what? Which Star Rail characters do you think were the first ones to receive a buff? Huh, well, would you look at that? But having generic-ass taste isn't always sunshine and rainbows, since being catered to all the time can actually be quite an issue. Sure, I'm fully aware that this is basically the gacha game equivalent of this meme. But there is one problem with having generic taste, if you can call it that. And it's that whilst you do have your standout characters, of course, that you like the most, which also tend to be the most shielded ones in the game by the devs. You know, your Castris in Star Rail, your Ishuan or Miyabi in ZZZero, Mawika or Skirk in Genshin, and so on. So whilst having generic taste probably means that these are your favorite characters or some of your favorite characters, that doesn't change the fact that you still also really like basically every other character there is. Yes, almost all of them. You know, maybe not as much as the aforementioned ones I just mentioned, but you like them enough for the desire to pull them to be, well, strong enough for that to be an issue. And this is of course assuming you aren't a giga whale with more money than the elongated muskrat. Yeah, I know, what a problem, right? Oh no, I got too many options to choose from, what should I do? But yeah, I think that is about all for this little rant of mine. About how there's too many slices! So if you by some divine miracle find this video somewhat enjoyable, might I encourage you to check out any of my other videos? That would be very kind of you. But with that said, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.